Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Manzoor, and I want to welcome you to episode one of our MPG podcast. Um, the reason why we started doing this podcast is as our commitment to our community. We want to bring you the best of each industry, our active community members, and on top of that, as active members of the society, we want to show the world our contributions to the society overall. Our first guest tonight is Sister Fahmin Fardous. She's a financial planner with Zenith Wealth Partners. I welcome you and I want you to do a brief introduction, please.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Brother Manzoor. A little bit about my background. Wow, makes me feel really old. But I have been in the financial industry for about 14 years now. So I've been with Zenith almost 2 years. But prior to that, being in Jersey, I'm sure everyone's aware of PNC Bank. I was with them for about 12 years. I started in the retail space, working as a part-time teller, but then I spent majority about a decade in wealth management where I worked with trust and estates. And what wealth management meant at PNC was you had to have $1 million in order to become a client. And that's something that would really irk me throughout my time there because, frankly, I didn't have any Muslim clients. I barely had any female clients. And the few that I had was because, it was their husband that died or their father passed away and they had no idea about their finances. And the other thing was there wasn't any people of color also in terms of my clientele. So I kept on looking around. Everywhere I looked, whether it was a different wealth management firm or it was a broker dealer or a registered investment advisory firm, they all had minimums where you had to have 250,000, 500,000, or $1 million in order to become a client. And that just didn't sit right with me, which is why when I went over to Zenith, it was really refreshing because we work with clients from all different spectrums of the financial realm. We have some clients who are making $60,000, and we have some clients who are making $600,000, and most of our clients are first generation wealth accumulators. So it's really awesome that I get to work with clients and meet them where they are with their goals. So I know I kind of, that was a long-winded answer for my background, but
No,
that's
that's
what I
awesome.
did before and what I'm doing right now.
That's super. So, in a few words, can you explain to me and our audience what's your main job as a financial planner, as a wealth manager? What is the main responsibility that you guys do?
Absolutely, great question. So I am a CFP. What that means is I'm a certified financial planner, and we had to go through rigorous training in order to become it because it is a very, it is actually the gold standard in the financial planning industry. So as a financial planner, we work with clients on what they need. We have some clients who really have a lot of issues with cash flow and budgeting, who kind of just don't really need someone in their corner to say like, hey, you're really over, you're not saving enough, you're going to have to move out your retirement. But some clients are like, I never had a financial planner before. I don't know what it's like to meet my goals. So can you give me a roadmap of what I need to follow? So we have so many clients who are like, I want to buy a house. My my lender is telling me I can afford this $600,000 house, but I'm not really comfortable with the $4,500 mortgage payment. And these are conversations we have with our clients. Just because a mortgage broker tells you can afford a certain amount in a home doesn't mean you should, because the house is not your only financial obligation. We have people with student loans, we have people with car loans, we have people who are sending their kids to college, private school, whatever it may be. So we're looking at their holistic financial picture and working with them, whether it's working on their retirement plan, on their tax planning, or working on their overall cash flow, or even just their retirement overall, making sure they're setting aside enough to grow their wealth in order to be retiring, in order to retire in a financial solvent way where they don't have to use their kids as their retirement plan.
Absolutely. So, what I'm understanding, and this is what I would need personally, and I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of our audience, is we're not all financially savvy. we don't have the financial literacy to make informed decisions. That's why we need somebody on our side to kind of give us guidance. There is a known saying that says, as much as your income increases, your expenses increase. So personally, me and my wife, sometimes we talk about this, that we need a budget because we don't know how much we're spending. So I guess that's going to be one of the areas you will really shine. But my next question to you would be, what makes you different from any other financial planners? What do you do differently to set yourself apart, kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question in terms of what we're doing differently. So, as I stated before, we don't have a minimum. So, in order for you to become a client, you don't have to meet like a certain client, the set of standards like, oh, you have to have this much, you have to be making this much, or you have to have this much in assets. It's nothing like that. It's you just have to be ready in order to work with a financial planner. So, being in that space is really different. And that's why we're disrupting the industry. The other thing is, you know, it's very, very, very difficult to find a Muslim CFP. I myself, when I was looking, to have a mentor,
I haven't heard of many,
yeah,
to be
it's,
honest.
to be honest, I actually just met one more CFP. He's in also in Jersey, and he works for one of those ultra net worth firms where they have, I think their minimum is $2 million. So that's one space where you have to have the million, you have to have the minimums. And the other spaces, there are, single-handedly do not know any other female CFPs in New Jersey or even like in the Northeast area. I know two in Virginia, and that's it. And they both work for Azad. That is a Muslim owned investment company, but their minimum is 500,000. So they all have minimums overall. So we are a fee only firm. So what fee only means is that you don't, whatever fee you give us is only for the advice we give you. Is we're not selling any products, we don't get any commissions. So for example, like insurance is a very tricky space in the for our religion, right, in the Muslim space. So I don't necessarily recommend insurance policies other than what you just automatically get with your employer. If it's something that's really important for someone, depending on where they are in their financial life, maybe a term life policy, but even those can end up being a little bit tricky. But whatever I refer, it's because I think that's what's best for you. It's
So you
not
need like
because,
a minimum liability for your car in
yeah,
case you get into a job.
like for example, brother Mansour, you might be the primary breadwinner in your family,
Correct.
right? And now what if you have young children, um what if something happens to you, you're not able to work anymore? What's going to happen? Like, does that mean your family has to rely on, the government assistance? Like, that term life policy, that's where it can kind of supplement and come in and
Right.
help you. But those are, that's like the most halal version of insurance, to be honest. So but we don't get any kickbacks. If I say something to you, like, I think you should get this policy, it's because I genuinely think that's what's best for you. I'm not getting a kickback, I'm not getting a commission. I'm acting as a true fiduciary. And what fiduciary means is, you are acting in the best interest of your client, and that's it.
Absolutely. No, as I'm in real estate and I understand fiduciaries, like you put your clients'
First, yeah.
interests first. And this is also when it comes to wealth management, financial planning, if somebody has a skin in the game or if they are making more money, they'll probably, I'm not saying everybody, but it's just prone to that they will push you towards a specific type of investment. So that's really a good differentiator and people could use from that. I want to take one step back, if you don't mind. um, what is your background before you got into financial planning, and how did you end up like? Was it based on, accident based, or you had passion, you wanted to help you? What was the main thing that got you into this sphere?
That's a really great question and makes me think quite back. Actually, when I first started undergrad, I majored in political science because I wanted to be an attorney. And this was right around the recession time, around 2008, and majority of my professors were attorneys. And it was a really bad time. I later found out for attorneys because they couldn't get jobs, and so they were like, we don't need any more in the field, and they were very discouraging at that time, which is why I was like, okay, this is not looking that promising. So I went and got my minors in public administration and business, and at that time I also happened to be a part-time teller at PNC. So once I graduated, they offered me a full-time position as a platform banker, and I realized I really like working with people. I understand money really well, so it's like, I just really understand the behavioral aspect of people. So I went and got my master's in psychological studies. It just happened at that time. I entered wealth management, working in that trust and estates field. The trust and estate field was a completely different world for me because I really understood the power of generational wealth. I really understood the power of wealth planning. And I mean, I had trusts that were from the 60s and the 70s, and how people left all this money to their kids and their grandkids, and they were paying for like down payments for their homes, paying for their children's education, their grandchildren's education, all from these trusts that they took out of their estate so they could save on their taxes. And I'm like, wow, this is like really powerful. And my community knows nothing about it.
Unfortunately.
And the thing is, at that time, we didn't have that kind of money. And one thing, as I learned, even working with more of my Muslim clients, the older clients, they're really afraid of investing because there's like this scarcity mindset. I'm an immigrant myself. So a lot of our clients also tend to be immigrants, like their fathers are, or their parents were just the first generation, or they just came and they're like, you know,
Where do you exactly come from? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, I'm from Bangladesh.
All right, beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
so my parents also have that same mindset where, like, we're gonna buy real estate and we're gonna live off the rental income, and that's really the idea of investing. But they just want to sit on cash. They don't understand the advantages of tax planning and leveraging that. That is actually the biggest hindrances to your wealth, is the amount of taxes you end up paying. So whatever you can do to defer it, whatever you can do to eliminate it, to reduce it, that's the way to do it. And that's how the rich keep getting richer. And you being in the real estate space, I'm sure you know about the 1031 exchange and how that can come to fruition in like, and it really blossoms into something so beautiful for your generation, for your estate, if you can do it right.
Absolutely. There's a going joke that some people do business, even our small business owners, they have like a shoebox for the receipts. They all put all those receipts and they deduct everything at the end of the year. They're not making enough. So that I think creates a financial problem by itself. They wouldn't qualify for loans and stuff. The approach that you're talking about, and I've heard about it. I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I've heard about it. That kind of planning will put you in the right sphere to maximize your taxes, not pay a lot of taxes, but at the same time show enough or good income, or you put it in the right use for your generation wealth, leave something for your kids that they can actually benefit from. And I think that's something that we all need immensely. And I agree with you 100%. It's not as educated, we're not as a community as educated about it as we should be. So thank you for mentioning that. Now, what should we be looking for in a financial partner or a financial planner? I call it partner for a good reason, because you'll be, as kind of a partner, as a guide to us. So, what should we be looking at a financial planner?
That's a really great question. When it comes to looking for a financial planner, ideally you want to make sure they're a CFP. That is the absolute gold standard. You want to make sure they are a certified financial planner, because that ensures that they went through rigorous training to have that designation. And in order for you to actually stay compliant, you have to do continuing education to keep your license valid. So they have to stay on top of their game. So since that's the gold standard, you want to make sure they're a CFP, and ideally, maybe I'm biased, so there's fee based and fee only. I would say it's more advantageous for you, and you have more of a peace of mind if your financial planner is fee only.
Can you tell us a little bit the difference? What makes
Absolutely.
a difference?
Fee only is you only pay your planner for the advice they give you. So if they're just doing the investments for you, they're taking a percentage of their investments, right? Whatever your account is worth. But if they're doing planning, like for example, if you come and say, Sister Famin, I want to do a financial plan with you, I'm going to tell you, well, this is going to be our engagement. This is what is going to be the fee, and this is what you're going to get at the end of it. It's very transparent. It's very clear cut. Fee based is, I might refer you to a partner of mine. I might refer you to this insurance. I might refer you to this broker, but they will get a kickback on it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to get a kickback, but sometimes it makes you think at the back of your head, are you referring to me to this person for me or for you? So to take that thought out, I think fee only makes a lot of sense when you're looking for a financial planner.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is trust in every relationship. Um, you mentioned you're good with people, and I could attest to that. Sister Famin, she's like a people's person. The vibe she's giving, and that builds trust in relationship. I've had clients who said, can you sign for us? I'm sure you had clients like that too, but at the same time, the whole structure, you don't want to leave loopholes for people to take advantage. So I agree. I would feel more comfortable if it was like a fee only, and that's all. So how do you make sure uh, to keep it halal and keep it Sharia compliant? And I'm asking it on behalf of all our community, because we have clients that are very, alhamdulillah, they're paying attention to these things. So how do you find these sources? How do you keep it financially Sharia compliant?
That's a really great question, and also a difficult question also, because that's something I was personally struggling with while I was looking for my own investments. And at that time, it was like the only thing you could do is literally pick stocks, and like, oh, I'm gonna buy, a Google, which actually is not compliant. We don't use it in any of our portfolios. But like for example, you buy an Amazon or a Microsoft, or one of those blue chip companies, but you literally only had to handpick, because that was the only way to do halal investments.
Right.
But the tough part about halal investments is making sure it stays halal, because there's volatility in the market. So I am not a Islamic scholar by any means, nor am I going to say I am or I know much about it. So what I do is, our firm, we rely on this app called Zoya. It's a fantastic app. So basically, what you do is you put in the ticker number. So for Amazon, it's AMZN. You put it in the ticker, and then it'll tell you whether it's compliant, whether it's non compliant, or whether it's questionable. So if it's questionable, it'll tell you like why it's questionable, and if you feel comfortable actually using that as part of your portfolio. So we do background analysis on our proprietary products. So what I've noticed, there are ETFs, so exchange traded funds, that are halal. Very few, but but we do have that availability now that we did not have before. But they, like for example, Wahid is known for their halal ETF. It's the S&P 500, but without the haram. But they are using Google as one of their top holdings. Do we use that ETF? Yes, because they're using their own screening. So I'm not going in and saying this is halal by any means. Whatever individual position we hold, it's because Zoya is saying it's compliant. And we're using that, and we check that on a quarterly basis to make sure it's staying halal. I mean, we started this, and every quarter, me personally, I'm looking at it like, is this a good performing stock? Should we hold on to it? Is it ethically a good holding to hold on to? For example, we're all aware of what's going on, in Gaza right now. So any individual holdings we have, we make sure that they are a good ethical company to hold on to, and is not a company that's adding to the funding of this destruction.
Thank you very much for going, one extra step to make sure you're Sharia compliant, and you're looking out for your clients' beliefs, and also with this situation going on, try to stay on the right side of the history. Now, does everyone has the same kind of portfolio? Like, you do a lot of work to put that portfolio. Is it like a cookie cutter for everyone who has the same portfolio?
That's a great, great question. So here's the thing. Brother Muhammad here is going to have a different risk tolerance than you, Brother Mansoor, because what really plays into your risk tolerance is your financial ability, is your age, and and also your goals. So someone might have like 100 risk score, and I'm going to explain what the risk score is. 100 is like I can invest all in Bitcoin and not bat an eye, and I'm comfortable with it. One is like, please give me all my cash, I want it under my mattress. Like, so that's what the stark difference is. With the S&P 500, it has a risk score of about 74 to 76, and most people stay within that range based on their age. So not everyone can have the same portfolio because you don't have the same risk tolerance. So I just actually had a conversation with a brother today, and he has individual holdings. So there are holdings that he will have and we will hold on to that are halal. So I'm not going to sell those stocks and give him like an unnecessary tax liability when we don't have to. But I have to create something that's personalized for him because that's what makes sense based on his risk tolerance. So every single person has their own risk tolerance, has their own risk capacity, and that's the way where we have to make sure all of the portfolios are curated differently to make sure it's fitting the goal and the outcome you wanted to resolve. Some people have like, I need that money in 3 years. Some people are like, I need that money in 30 years. So we can't invest the same way. Everyone has to be on a different level in order with their risk tolerance and also with their goals and their time horizon.
So one question that I have is, uh, there's a lot of advice on the internet. You see like TikTok videos, you see Instagram videos. Should people rely on those videos for financial advice? Do you see safe or sane advice online, or how they can seek proper advice from a financial planner? This is maybe like cost related, or fear of the unknown, or uncertainty that they don't want to take the first step. Like, I know Zenith is making it a lot easier as far as their limits, but what advice do you have? Should people rely on those advice online for some time until they get ready? How should they approach it?
There's a lot of good advice on the internet, but there's also a lot of bad advice on the internet. So, I have good stories for days. So there are different types of retirement vehicles, and I have this client, between him and his wife, they're making like over 300,000. And, you know, the IRS puts limitations on how much and how you can contribute to your retirement accounts. And he was just, regularly contributing to his Roth IRA, which is a tax exempt account, meaning the money you put in a Roth is with after tax dollars, and it grows tax free for you and never pay taxes on that money again. The great thing about the IRS is you don't pay taxes on the same money twice if you use it in an intelligent way. So he was making too much and he was contributing to the Roth because TikTok said he could. And we're like, no, now we have to pull out the contributions, make sure we're doing a form to make sure it's correct. So there are a lot of like fixing that we have to do. But there's also, in terms of good advice, right? You have so many influencers that will say, put money in a IRA, put money in a Roth account. But you also have to be very careful. My favorite is the one I see about business owners, where you have an LLC. Like, let's say you own real estate, throughout, you have a bunch of investment properties, and they're like, yeah, hire your kids to to have a job so you can put
I've
money
seen
in
that a
their,
lot.
you
I've
have
heard
to,
that.
exactly, you have to put, you can put money in their Roth IRA. But you've got an 18-month-old, right, with a social security number. What job is can that 18-month-old do for you?
Right.
So unless like you're a musician and you're using the child's cries as your background noise, you cannot pay a reasonable salary to that child because they cannot do that job. But now let's say you've got like a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old or something, and they're shredding paper for you. That's something that you could do, like, okay, I'm giving you a job, I'm paying you based on this. So you have to think about it. Just you having a business is not enough. You have to have a sufficient type of business in order for you to pay a reasonable amount of money to that child that you can put in a Roth IRA. So it has to be earned income whenever it goes into any type of retirement accounts. You can't be like 80 years old, now you're retired, now you have all this money, and now you're like, yeah, I want to put money in a Roth IRA now. or I want to put money in an IRA. No, you cannot. You cannot put money in any retirement accounts if you do not have earned income. The only exception is for spousal IRAs, where if you have a spouse that does not work and you have money that you want to set aside for retirement for your spouse, or also, for a good tax picture, you can set aside money for your spouse for it to grow a tax free or tax deferred in that situation. That's the only time you can put money in a retirement account that is not earned income.
I want to ask you this question. So, who better than you to answer that? Is how do you define financially free, and when do you see yourself, or like in 5 years, 10 years, like what would be a realistic goal when we say we want to be financially free? What does that mean? And on a personal note, do you have a goal or do you have a dream? What does that look like? And we'll try to copy the same one.
That is an excellent question because it really varies from person to person, right? Some people say my financial freedom means I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. Some people are like, my husband, he says, I'll be financially free when my real estate is paying my mortgage. So, I'm living for free. So everyone defines it very differently. For me, honestly, I think that financial freedom is not going to come till I'm much later in life, where my kids have gone off to college, my, or whatever higher education they choose, and they're financially set, and I don't have to rely on just in like a steady stream of income, because all my debts are now paid off and I just have a good amount of passive income. I've set aside a good amount in my retirement accounts that I can live off of, and I can really reduce my risk tolerance and be like, I'm really comfortable with this. I'm really comfortable in this space, and hopefully move somewhere else and not be in the States in retirement.
That's a great, great plan. And for the last question, what's your advice, or what is your one word that you want to say to somebody who feels behind in life? You just mentioned everybody has their own dreams, but sometimes we're looking for shortcuts. And that's one of the side things that we get from social media, that you think everything is going to happen overnight. And you being in that sphere and saying that it's going to take years puts us in a better situation, because we know it's going to take longer. So, what's your advice for somebody who feels they're behind and how they can catch up?
you know I think about this, and the my biggest advice I can give to anyone, honestly, is to have a conversation, is to get started, because there is no perfect time. I've met way too many people. I'm going to start saving when I do this. I'm going to start saving when I pay off my student loans. I'm going to start saving when I pay off my credit cards. Whatever it is, there's like this future invisible timeline ahead. And, once you get there, something else comes up and something else comes up, and now you're 50 years old with nothing. I actually literally just met with a client today, mid 40s, only has $100,000 in savings and has nothing else saved for retirement. And he's like, "Can I retire at 55?" And I'm like, "No, I'm being very practical. For the lifestyle you want to live, you live in New York, you will not be able to retire. You will have to work for a longer time, or you dramatically reduce your lifestyle. Because if you are feeling behind, you have to get started. Talk to a professional about what you should be doing, right? Because time is your best friend when it comes to investments. Time is your best friend when it comes to savings, because consistency is key. A person that starts saving $20,000 a year at 20 years old is always going to have more money than a person starting at 40 saving $40,000 a year, because your time horizon is much less now. You can stomach less volatility. You are just going to start getting anxious. You're going to need more money, or you're going to end up with less. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but it's just the reality of the fact is that you have to get started and talk to someone that can help you. Talk to someone, and I'm not saying talk to me. If the reason why I do have conversations where I'm even speaking on this podcast is because I want my community to know that there is someone out there who does understand what is halal investments. I just spoke with someone 2 weeks ago, a banker who's non-Muslim, and she's like, my client asked me to turn off interest, and I don't know why. And she had a Muslim client, and it's because the people who don't understand and who you can't relate to will ask questions, and there's like, well, what do you mean you don't want to invest in Google? What do you mean you don't want phantom income from these bonds? Because it's interest, it's free, why would you not want it? And these are conversations is difficult to have with people who are don't have the same belief as you. So just use me as a resource. Like you hit me up, have a conversation. I'm always happy to set some time aside on my calendar to educate, because our community, if anything, what we need is more education around financial planning, around investments, and just understanding what are your available vehicles so you can make sure you're getting ahead in life and you're actually kind of on the same playing field as the rest of the world is, especially the non-Muslim communities where they have a lot of generational wealth. I want to get to a space where I'm 50 years old and I see a lot of the top wealthy people being Muslim, because as we grow our community, we want to be able to make a difference and we want our voice to be heard. And our voice is not gonna get heard if we're not out there.
I want to genuinely thank you, and please accept our gratitude. We need more brothers and sisters to get into financial field. My message to whoever is listening: money as a whole is a taboo kind of thing in our culture and our society, and our whole mindset towards money is money is the root of evil, money is whatever. But if you change your perspective and say a little that wealth is as a tool, you can use it for good. You can be a philanthropist. You can be bringing hope to other people. You can help people back home, help people in need, and at the same time create the life that your family deserves. So if you put it in that perspective, I think it falls down into right pieces, and people like my sister right here, she can help you achieve those goals. So I hope you find these information uh, productive and helpful. And if you have any question, comments, please put it here. We're gonna share Sister Fahmin's information with you. Please reach out to her. As she said, use her as a resource. And if you have any questions, read it in the comments. We'll make sure we get an answer. Thank you very much for all your time. And if you don't have anything, we're gonna end our conversation here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.